Hey y'all, this is Gabe with Real Relations. So this is the fourth episode with Cody Davis. Today we talk a little bit more about Cody Davis's seller financing strategy in multifamily, meaning he buys apartment complexes through his arrangements with the owners of these apartment complexes. He has a lot of insight to share with us, and he's a really knowledgeable person, very interesting guy overall, and I really hope that y'all pick up on the little nuggets of knowledge that he drops in this podcast episode. Let me know what y'all think of it, and I'm also wanting to hear a little bit more critiques like from y'all. Any questions that y'all want me to start asking these people, anything of the sort. And yeah, without further ado, here is the episode.
Continue to the screen and have you be like the main person just talking. So I have a list of questions for you because last time I felt like I was like a little bit unprepared and I was just like shocked that I was talking to you for the first time. Got a little nervous. But hey Cody, welcome to Real Relations. I'm glad to have you on. I think you will be either the fourth or the fifth guest, depending on like how soon I could edit this episode. But how are you doing? Can you tell us like a little bit more about you? Get the viewers a little sneak peek in your life.
Yeah, so my name's Cody, and 22. Got started with real estate investing at 19 years old as a licensed real estate broker, became an investor in the first year of being an agent, and first person.
I want to talk a little bit about like how you define a successful relationship. Building a relationship to the point where someone is able to trust selling you a sometimes a multi-million dollar asset that has to do. I think you have some like tips in building relationships that like a lot of people would gain value from. So can you tell us like a little bit more on like how you report with these people, or just like some of the overall tips you have like for relationship building?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to how do you build rapport, and what I've found to be the simplest and most effective model is you find relatable points based on your past. You find common goals, which looks into the future, and you have to figure out how to share your why, whatever the reason is that you're doing what you're doing. And while
Mhm.
you're sharing yours, you're inquiring, you're learning about what theirs was. And so I found that it's just these three sectors of relatable points, goals, and significance. If you can share your three pieces and then inquire on theirs,
Mhm.
you're going to cultivate a relationship over time.
And I know that you really don't you don't like the idea of just like calling someone up and being like, hey, I want to buy your apartment complex. Can you take us through why that isn't like necessarily such like a good strategy, and um I guess like the difference between that and what you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's doing that. And you think of it like a red ocean or a blue ocean. Red ocean is where there's a bunch of sharks in the water, there's a bunch of blood everywhere, and it's hyper competitive.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to compete with that. I don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing. And so I see all these people, especially younger folks, that are making those phone calls. It's like, hey, I'm a younger investor looking to get my first place in this area. Curious if and when you're looking to sell. And it's not a very refined approach. It's
Mhm.
just, it's super raw and everybody's doing it. And so I figured, okay, instead of doing what everyone else is doing, why not find something that just works more often? And it's what people aren't expecting to hear is I don't call people to buy their property.
Mm-hmm.
And when I call them up, I'm just calling to learn how they did what they did and trying to book a meeting. I
Yeah.
want to learn how they got to where they're at. And that's not going to happen over a phone call. So I have to go book a meeting. Could be coffee, could be lunch, could be dinner. And over that meeting, I'm going to share what I'm working on. I want to learn as much as I can on how they got to where they're at and learn really what they've accomplished. And through that builds a relationship that doesn't, it doesn't bring any properties to me day one, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
need that. I need to learn right now,
Mm-hmm.
delayed gratification. And now, because I did that for the past couple of years, I have a bigger deal flow than I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to figure out how to build up the business. And that's what I've done to build up the business.
Yeah. So I guess you were, if you think about it, you're essentially like a pioneer of like this like new strat or this strategy. You were the person that was like testing it out, finding like all the little intricacies to it. You've had like a lot of mistakes. So in finding like this like new strategy, what was the thing that like kept you going and made you think made you keep going from the first deal to the second deal and like not simply think it was a complete fluke?
Well, I mean, if you establish relationships with people, again, I'm not calling to buy people's stuff. If I don't buy their stuff, that's fine. But I'm calling to learn how they did it. And through that, through those meetings, you have to have the right questions. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your outcomes. So that is something that you develop over time. But as you're meeting with people, if you have the right questions, you can get a lot of information that's not online. The people that have been playing the game for 30, 40, 50 years know a lot. They've been around the block. So I'm not calling to buy the property. I'm calling to learn the bits and pieces you can't find online. There are certain things you just can't find online.
Yeah.
And you can only find that through word of mouth. And so again, like whether it's a fluke or not, I mean, I wasn't calling to buy the property. Like that wasn't the objective. So I didn't view it as something that could be a fluke because I was just meeting with people for coffee.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of like, I guess like keeping these relationships like built, are you like contacting them in like a certain schedule? Is it just like whenever like they appear to mind, like, oh hey, I thought of you and here's like this random text that I'll send you at this given moment when you come to mind?
It's not planned out. I mean, it's all very genuine. I'm not,
Mhm.
my relationship with them is not a business. It's a relationship. It's not transactional. There's a point in a relationship where there could be something that is transactional, but the relationship itself is not a business. That is the word, it's a relationship. So nothing
Yeah.
is scheduled, nothing is pre-planned.
Okay.
When I think
So
about them, I'll shoot them a message.
okay, that's good. So essentially what you're saying is that like you're keeping this like friendship for like long run, and it's not necessarily um I guess like just viewing this relationship as like a business transaction. You keep the friendships even after like you do like the business deal, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was like trying to get a little bit of clarity on. Because that's a lot of friends you must have, man.
I mean, there's only so many people, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I bought a sevenplex in Tequila. There's a lot of owners in Tequila. I've been meeting with some of them, but over in Central Washington, you're looking at a town of 30,000 people.
Mhm.
There's only so many owners that own a bunch of stuff. There's only
Yeah.
so much.
So
So,
I know when you started, you said you were a real estate broker. You had your broker's license, or were you considered an agent?
in Washington, broker and agent are synonymous. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it's because like in Texas, I know like there's like they have to be like really, really clear on like the distinction. They're like, you're an agent, not a broker. Don't ever tell anyone you're a broker. I'm like, okay, gotcha. um, so what skills did you like have? Did you know how to underwrite? Did you know like the bits and pieces about like determining or analyzing like a rent roll whenever you were first getting started? Was there any education period, or did you just like say, this is something I'm gonna do, this is something I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna learn it as I'm doing it?
There was definitely an education period. I bought my very first deal in I want to say September. It was either September or October of 2019.
Mhm.
And I got licensed as an agent in January of 2019.
Mhm.
So there was a period where I had to learn because I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't come from a real estate background, and I didn't have any real estate friends at the time. The closest thing to it, I know of one of my dad's friends had a contractor that he knew who was doing flips. And so like I didn't have any real estate knowledge. I had to learn it.
Yeah. So that's cool. How long would you say it took you to like actually learn it? Did you like start learning it as soon as you're like, I want to buy the complex, or as soon as you got offered it? Or because I know like with the first owner you met with, he was the one who started the idea, right? He was like, just make me an offer more than anything. Is that correct?
That was the second.
Oh,
That was
second.
the second one. Yeah. But no, I mean I'm still learning today, right?
Mhm.
It's not like I know all of it. I know very little of it, but I know some of the pieces that work. I started learning how to analyze. I started learning where to look for deals when I got started as an agent. Being an agent wasn't the deciding factor there. People always say, "Oh, you should become an agent." Like, why? It's a
Yeah.
career. It's not an investment field.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just started looking. I was like, how do I underwrite? How do I find this? How do I find that? Because I was at a brokerage, no longer there. They went under. Turns
Yeah.
out good ideas and bad management doesn't work out. So, but they were at the time focused on rental properties, and so I started learning about rental properties,
Okay.
and I bought my first place later that year.
Okay. So what your first place, what was like your first place?
The first rental was a 12-plex.
Yeah. And the 12 plex use that one had, was it the one that had like a lot of issues with the car, or was it the one that
Uh,
was like ran into?
oh no, that was a 38 unit.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a whole nother story. But no, this 12-plex is great. I mean, I still own it today.
Mhm.
I'm the sole owner of it right now. It's a phenomenal property, and it's right next to the schools, right next to the church, right next to Microsoft. It's a
Mhm.
phenomenal deal. But back when I had $3,000 to my name, it would seem like a huge stretch. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, it's doable. I
Mhm.
borrowed 90% from a seller and 10%. It was from a private investor that I was introduced to through the brokerage I was working at because they were
Mhm.
focused on rentals and they had clients who wanted to invest money. And so um, being in the right environment definitely helped there, but made a few pitches, botched some, and
Mhm.
bought it 100% financed.
Can you tell us like a little bit more about like how you botched like those experiences? I know that like a lot of people like when they're first getting started, like they were you like more nervous than anything? Did you not know enough stats about your deals?
I mean, you've never done it before, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
was 19, never did it, so I didn't know what to say. I got in front of a couple investors that they put me in front of, and I forgot what the purchase price was. I forgot what the
Yeah.
cash flow was. I forgot all these different metrics because
Mhm.
I was nervous. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens in the beginning, and you just have to go do it. Today, you can make a phone call and source $1 million of debt there, it's private, and some equity here and there. But back then it was super nerve-wracking because if you've never done it, you've never done it. It's just,
Yeah, it's like, how do you go from just doing like your day-to-day activities to asking people for upwards of like $50,000? That's like some people's salary in a sense. And it's just like crazy to think in such a way.
it's hard
Yeah.
getting started. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really difficult. I heard this line from Gary Vee.
Mhm.
Someone had told him it was must be easy for you to say, and it's like, yeah, because I lived it. There's a period where it's just so hard in the beginning, but you find the right opportunity, meaning the right relationship, the right property.
Mhm.
Once you get your first one, you just get this level of confidence that conveys over the next deal, and then you get a little bit more confidence, and eventually it is easy for you to say as well because it's, you feel confident and more comfortable.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about like some of the fears that you've had? Because I know like now you're like, I have 87 units and I'm still learning, but like it's gotten to the point where your fear has been mitigated. Can you talk about like some of the fears you were first facing when you were 19?
I mean, I didn't really have a ton, and that was probably just because I was young and I didn't know. I mean, I'm still young, but I didn't know what risks were associated with it. And I think that was a gift for me because there were other people in the office that had money, other agents that had the down payment and they could have bought it and they would have beat me because they've been in the game for so long. But they didn't because they were nervous and they let that get over them and they would have done exceedingly well on the assets. They just never bought a duplex before. So why would they start with 12, right?
Mhm.
So getting started, I didn't have a ton of fear because I didn't know what there was to fear. Um, that said, I was not confident. I didn't have any confidence in myself. I used to be the shy kid who didn't have a lot of friends and didn't, I was afraid to go ask for food, go to the cashier and order because I didn't like talking to people. So that, no confidence there. So over time that's helped out, but the actual fear is not there because people, they're going to fear what? Risk. They're going to fear regret. You can fear the risk of, loss or regret. And there's always going to be fear of some kind, but I'd rather lose something and get a story out of it
Mhm.
and build who I am than regret not doing it.
Okay. Yeah. Damn. It's amazing. I love that. So, can you talk a little bit about like what were like some of the things that you focused on to like build your confidence since you had like no confidence? Were there like just like little actions you did in your day-to-day life, etc.?
I mean, the first one was just buying a property.
Mhm.
Today I only have two buying criteria. How do I buy it and how do I never lose it? And if I can answer those two questions, I'll buy the property. Every time I buy a property, I get a little bit more confident. I get a little bit more sense of I can actually go do this. Christian and I bought those 6 units yesterday just because
Mhm.
we sat down and said, it's been a while since we've done this. It was just out of, we should probably buy something. And every time we buy that, it gives us a little bit of a boost to our confidence. And that's why we do it, because we need to keep that high enough to know that we can go accomplish whatever we need to go accomplish when it really counts. And so just getting small wins, the triplexes, granted, we bought two of them, it was 6 units. That was my smallest purchase ever.
Mhm.
So we did it just to get that little boost. But when it really matters and we're looking at that 100 unit, the little wins that we got along the way really go a long way.
Yeah. I want to dive a little bit more into the the car crash story. I know that's probably like one of your crazier experiences within real estate. Can you let us know a little bit more about that? What ended up happening with that? How did you end up solving the issue, etc.?
I mean, that one wasn't too crazy, but there was a car, someone's vehicle drove straight through a wall of the 38 unit. We had someone inside, and that was fun. But they drove through it and completely knocked down the wall, destroyed the window. So we had to get that rebuilt. We had a contractor go out there, and they got the work done, and eventually insurance ended up paying for it. It was their car insurance. Thank you, State Farm. They paid for that. So yeah, things happen. I've had floods in units before. I had a roof get redone once, and we had an unforecasted rainstorm swoop in overnight, and it was a flat roof, so they had taken it off and they were going to lay it down because it was supposed to be sunny for the next 2 weeks. And yeah, that flooded 6 units. So things happen. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's part of the game. You gotta build something worth losing and then protect it, right? Don't protect things that don't achieve your goal, and along the way as you're building, a lot of things come up.
So what, I guess, like, since you have criteria for the properties, which is how do I buy it and how do I never lose it, what I'm pretty sure you have like almost a mental checklist, or if not, you kind of see like where opportunities lie. How do you determine like where your energy goes?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm building up the consulting company, I'm building up the real estate, building up property management. I've got, a couple baby companies that are doing, a little bit of revenue, and I want to scale those up. So a lot of attention goes to those. But as far as real estate goes, my mental checklist is really just how do I buy it? How do I never lose it? Because if I can answer those two questions, I'm going to make a lot of money. And that allows me, it's not just getting money for money. What does it allow you to do? It goes back to your why. And so if I can answer those two questions, I'm set.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. A lot of people like barely getting into the field are like, yeah, I want to call owners, but how do you even like figure out who owns this building? What are like some of the sources that you end up using to like find out who people are? I know True People Search is like a good one. Going into like what is it, the secretary or the tax records in the city. Is there any other source that you use?
I use the tax records, and then when you find out the tax parcel, you can plug it in, see who owns it. If it's an LLC or an individual, you can plug them into open corporates. And if it's a LLC, it'll tell you who owns the LLC. And if it's a person, it'll tell you all the LLCs they own. That's a little secret, so you can find out how big they really are.
Do you my bad. Do you approach relationships differently, like whenever they're like owning a bunch? Do you respect their time a little bit more? Do you have like any, I guess, like little stigma attached to them?
No, everybody is treated the same, and it's nothing but the best.
Okay, that's cool. You were saying something and I cut you off. You were talking about depending on like you can see like how big they are.
Oh, well, yeah, you plug them into open corporates and you can see how many LLCs they own, and there's some creative things there, but that'd be more than an hour-long conversation.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. And I want to talk a little bit more about your mentorship program. So I recently joined it, and I'm like really excited because it's like the biggest amount I've ever invested into myself. But in having like these conversations with you, I know that like if you don't invest in yourself, then ultimately no one will. You have to have that confidence in yourself to like really I guess like push those limits and create like new standards for yourself. um so do you want to potentially like plug the mentorship program in and just like talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. As far as the mentorship goes, application's more important than information. And just about any information you want, you can get online. I mean, there's some secret sauce in there that I've learned from, some of these people that have been in the game 50, 60 years. They've been investing for extended periods of time from the 60s, the 70s. They've been in it for a long time. And really that the mentorship is just to illustrate a clear path from where you're at to where you want to go. And it's to give you the actual steps to get there. And then the actual application of what you need to make it happen. Now you can have all the information. You could have Google Maps, Siri telling you where to go. You could have it plugged into your high-tech fancy car. But at the end of the day, if I told you the address of my 12-plex, it would take you longer to get there than it would to get home, because as long as you're going there, you don't have absolute certainty of where you're going, even though you have all the information. When you're going home, you know where you're going. So it's about the application of what's required to get from where you're at to where you want to be.
Okay. Yeah. And you've had like a lot of groups like just in several places. So I know you have the Texas team, and I recently met one of them called Evan. He's a beast. And
Evan's
I
cool.
also huh?
Evan's cool.
Evan is pretty cool. I know you also have two 19-year-olds that are absolute hustlers, and they're paying through your mentorship program by doing DoorDash every day or
Yeah,
like every other day.
they're
And
making it happen. They've found some seller financed opportunities. They're working on it, and they've gotten all the way through LOI to purchase, and there's learning lessons along the way. We've got some folks that we had a guy here in Washington just buy a duplex over by, actually we're just about property neighbors. He bought over in my neck of the woods, and so
yeah.
I mean, people are doing things. People are looking at the owner contracts. We've got folks in Oklahoma. We've got folks in Australia. We've had people we've connected with in Canada. I think Christian's talking with someone out of the Caribbean. So we're all over the place. But, at the end of the day, you're not going to join just for the information. There's going to be information that you've never seen before. There's going to be creative strategies you've never heard of before. But that's not the reason that you would join. The reason you would join is because it's the actual application behind all the techniques.
Yeah. Okay. So dude, I'm pretty sure you've been getting like this almost this like full circle moment where like you see like a lot of people that you're affecting and helping out. Can you talk a little bit more about that feeling, what your thoughts are whenever you see someone actually start having like the same mistakes and still like going past them?
I mean, it's fun to watch. Some of the sayings my original mentor shared with me, I get to share with people today. So it's cool to see that come full circle, because I remember the pain from those lessons. And it's fun that I can help navigate some of these people around some of the pitfalls that I had, because I had some pretty hefty pitfalls that I got to learn on my own from my previous mentor. And, it feels good to help people. And it's really why I'm doing it.
Okay, that's amazing. I think a lot of this it's like a continual progress. So hopefully one day we get to check in with each other again. I hope to have another episode with you just because I feel like I'm going to be spending a lot more time in like a lot of these social circles that you've created. And I'm really excited just to see it. And thank you so much for just being a part of this. It really means a lot. Um, I'm excited to see where you're going too. I know that you're learning like constantly, and you're basically just like taking off. So super happy, super excited for that.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Cody. And I'll stop the recording here.